The Dallas Renegades make me sad. They just make me very, very sad. Now, a very small part of me wants to be proud of myself because I was right about the Dallas backup quarterback, Philip Nelson. I've been saying the same exact thing about Philip Nelson since week 1 of the XFL season. And it's not that fulfilling or that impressive really to be right because, it's not like I had some crazy theory and said some out of left field wacky thing. It's just what I see on film as an objective fact that the Dallas quarterback, Philip Nelson, is just a limiting factor. His inability to throw the ball downfield is a massive, massive limiting factor to the Dallas offense. Dallas cannot succeed with Philip Nelson at quarterback. That's brutal. It's also honest. Vegas was very, very wrong about this game. You had Dallas playing New York, and for some reason, Vegas had Dallas as the favorite to beat New York this week. If I'd known that, I've never, ever gambled in my entire life. I've actually turned down gambling sponsors because it's one of my weird principles. I just I'm good. But man, even me, who opposes gambling strongly because I've got family members who had horrible addictions and I stay away from it. Even me would go, I might put money on New York beating Dallas because Dallas's quarterback, Philip Nelson, can't get the job done. And like I said they would, listen to the show from last week, I said, hey, New York's going to beat Dallas, and New York did beat Dallas. They won 30-12. It's one of those rare times. I don't gloat very often when I'm right. I'm actually kind of famous for making videos where I talk about when I'm wrong. But man, I saw this coming a mile away. I was right. And again, it doesn't take a genius or a football god to understand that, hey, Philip Nelson is the problem. Philip Nelson is the backup quarterback in Dallas. The starting quarterback, Landry Jones, is hurt. And not having Landry Jones is probably going to end up costing Dallas their entire season. Philip Nelson has played only 2 full games this season in relief of Landry Jones. Week 1, Landry Jones was hurt. Week 5, last week, Landry Jones was also hurt. And in 2 full games with Philip Nelson as a quarterback, Dallas has not scored a drive on a touchdown with Philip Nelson in at quarterback. In week 1, when Philip Nelson started, they had 3 field goals, and in week 5, the most recent game, they had another 2 field goals. Dallas's 1 touchdown in week 5 was a kick return touchdown. Again, they cannot succeed with Philip Nelson as quarterback. He's just his arm. He's got a noodle arm. He doesn't have the ability to throw the ball downfield beyond literally 5 yards. I know that sounds weird, and you're probably thinking, if Philip Nelson is so bad, if he's really as bad as you say, Zach, well, then why does he play? Well, he's playing because he makes good decisions, not because he's talented. He plays because he puts the ball in the right spot. I have to acknowledge that Philip Nelson, he makes often pretty solid decisions. He's not a bad reader of defenses, but he's super physically limited. Again, he's got a little noodle arm. He cannot complete a pass into a tight window downfield. That's sad. That's brutal. That's also honest. He threw some really, really terrible balls downfield this past weekend. There was a 3rd and 9, hit a deep ball down the right sideline, and he literally threw the ball out of bounds. He was nowhere near his target. You can't complete a deep ball if you throw it out of bounds. That's pointless. And then Dallas has this star tight end, Donald Parham. The dude's 6'8". He's a stud, man. The guy's so fast. He's so physically gifted. And multiple times, New York played Donald Parham in man coverage and said, hey, we're going to cover your guy one-on-one because we don't think your quarterback can get the ball there. And in spite of the fact that Donald Parham in one-on-one coverage is a mismatch, Donald Parham should dominate that. Dallas couldn't get him the ball. I think he had one catch. I remember one opportunity where Philip Nelson closed his eyes and threw the ball downfield and got lucky. And he literally, after he completed the pass, was he was very relieved that it worked. Because Philip Nelson, for the majority of the game, when Donald Parham, the star tight end for Dallas, was in man coverage and open, by the way, Philip Nelson literally was physically incapable of getting him the ball. Again, it's sad, it's brutal, but it's also a harsh reality to say that Philip Nelson is the problem. He will be the reason why Dallas will not win more games. If Philip Nelson is the quarterback for Dallas, they cannot win. It's not possible. Now, I do want to say one thing. I want to defend Philip Nelson. If you look at the stat sheet, he had 2 interceptions. It looks pretty bad. Philip Nelson, 2 bad decisions, 2 interceptions. They were not bad throws. They were actually tough breaks. Both balls were tipped up and caught by defensive linemen. That's not his fault. So I want to give one respectful, kind thought towards Philip Nelson. His 2 interceptions were just unfortunate, unlucky plays. They were not terrible decisions. You shouldn't bash on him for, he's so bad, blah, 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 and he had 2 interceptions. He's bad, blah, 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 can't throw the ball downfield. But at least the 2 interceptions he threw were not directly his fault. They were balls that were just unluckily tipped up and caught by defensive linemen.